What is up, my people? Welcome back to my channel. This is going to, just a quick shout out to Amy's mac and cheese because it is so dank. This is going to be a makeup tutorial on a pink glossy lid. I was inspired by Ariana Grande's Halloween look this year, so that is what we are gonna do. And I wanted to wear a red lip as well because I have not worn one in a while, but I'll do more of a traditional red lip look very soon because that is a staple for the holidays. So back to the eyes, I did go ahead and prime with my Tarte Shape Tape like always, and now I'm going in with some red liquid lipsticks. This is Bad Apple and Missy and Fierce. I didn't know which one would blend out better, so I just decided to test one on one eye and one on the other, and I ended up liking how the Smashbox blended out. I thought it was going to be different because the Smashbox one was more of a sticky consistency, and I thought that that was going to be harder to blend out, but it actually was the opposite. I preferred the Smashbox over the Wet n Wild one, but I love both formulas for the lips. So I'm just grabbing a pencil brush. This one is from Doll's Kill, and it's kind of bigger than most pencil brushes. It's more on the fluffy side, and I'm using that so I can get right in the crease and start blending out that liquid lipstick, and you can blow it out as much as you would like. You can see how far I blended mine up. You just don't want to get too close to your eyebrow because it's just gonna look too messy, and okay. I just love when that happens. By the way, if your arm is not sore, keep blending. I'm just kidding, but not really. Also, I was just dying and choking right there because, little PSA, if you do eat that Amy's mac and cheese, do not overcook it and leave it sitting out because it literally turns into cement and it will choke you. I'm not even kidding. But I was just blending out the edges of that liquid lipstick with a clean, fluffy brush, and now I'm going to move on to the brows. And for the front, I want that to look the most natural, so I'm just taking the Too Faced Chocolate Brownie Brow Pencil in, not sure the shade, but it's like more of a light taupey brown. And I'm just going to draw some hair-like strokes in the beginning and brush it out with these spoolies so it looks nice and natural. And then once I get towards the end of my brow, I'm going to switch over to the ColourPop Brow Gel Cream or something like that. And I'm going to do a more defined tail, kind of lengthen, or not lengthen, what's it called? Extend the brow a little bit further than my natural one. I have very sparse hairs towards the end of my brow, and I feel like a lot of people do. And to apply that, I'm using my new favorite brow brush ever. It's amazing. I love the spoolie, love the brush. It's super dense, and it's the right size. It's not too big, not too small, and that is from Pretty Vulgar. And by the way, I am completely obsessed with my nails. Now, going back to the eyes, I'm taking my Upside Down 120 color palette from BH Cosmetics, and I'm taking this True Red shade on a fluffy brush. I find that the coverage is overall less patchy when I use a blending brush rather than a flat one, so I'm just packing that all over the lid, and once that's on and blended out, I'm taking the shade Brilliant from my TheBalm Nude Beach palette on a bigger fluffy brush, and I'm going to sweep that through my upper crease area to highlight the brow bone and help the red shade transition more seamlessly. Now I'm taking this gorgeous single shadow by Urban Decay called Relish, and one of my new favorite blending brushes by BH Cosmetics. I'll try to find this specific brush link and put it down below because it is perfect for the crease and adding darker shadows without getting it too all over the place. It's like the perfect shape. So I'm just applying that darker shade to give the look some dimension, putting that only in the outer V and slightly blending it into the crease towards the inner. And then I'm taking a makeup wipe and just cleaning up those edges and then giving my lips some moisture before the lip product later on with a little bit of the Wet n Wild Pout and Kiss, which has been my go-to lip balm lately. So last for the eyes before we move on to the face, I'm just taking a little bit of Urban Decay Perversion liner and tight lining with that. And then I'm taking the Smashbox Photo Finish Foundation Primer. This is the smoothing one. And I'm applying that to my T-zone or any problem areas that I want to smooth over, like enlarged pores or smile lines or anything like that. And then my face was breaking out. Actually, I'd been kind of picking at it before this video, so they're a little bit more inflamed, red, and noticeable, so we need to cover those up. And I'm going to be color correcting with a green concealer because if you didn't know, green and red are across from each other on the color wheel, so that means that they counteract each other. So I am applying a generous amount of this green corrector on a little pointy, I don't know why I use this pointy brush by Smashbox, but I just love it and I can't get away from it for this part. So once you apply the green to it, I'm just going to take my finger and very lightly tap over the problem area to blend the concealer out. And during this process, you might notice that while you're blending, the coverage on the actual pimple gets less and you can see it showing through, like the one on my nose. That is kind of supposed to happen because you only want to blend the edge, like the outside of the concealer, and then you want the most concentrated amount to be right on the actual zit, if that makes any sense. I hope it does. So now I'm taking my foundation, and I forgot to get a clip of it, but this is the 100% pure healthy fruit pigmented foundation. And before I apply that, I am going to spray my beauty blender with a little bit of primer water from Smashbox. I've been doing this recently and it doesn't make the hugest difference, but I do notice that it makes my foundation a little bit easier to blend. And this is also just a good tip in general for when your beauty blender has been laying out and it gets dry and it just needs a little pick me up. You can just spray it with some of that and you are all good. And before anybody comments, yes, I know this is not really the right shade for me. It is too light, but it ain't the first time it's happened and it ain't gonna be the last. We can get through it together. So now I'm going to take a smaller brush to get around my hairline, underneath my eyes, around my shadow, and around my brows, because doing that with a beauty blender is like mission impossible. Before I apply concealer, I'm going to be taking my Naked Skin color correcting fluid in the shade Peach, and this is going to be used right under my eyes, just a very small amount to counteract the dark circles. And I don't have terrible darkness under my eyes, but when I'm not using a full coverage concealer like the Tarte Shape Tape, I like to do this step first just to ensure that no darkness will show through when I am using a lighter coverage concealer like the Tarte Rainforest of the Sea one, which I absolutely love. I think it's so lightweight and brightening, and it's perfect for like those days where you don't want to have really caked up concealer under your eyes, which is like only on a Tuesday for me. But I feel like no concealer is enough for my nose. For some reason, it just doesn't stick as well as the rest of my face. I know other people have had that problem before, so I always use a little bit of Tarte Shape Tape down the center of my nose. And I always use a brush in stippling motions to get the most coverage out of that, and then if I have leftover on my brush, I will just apply that to my smile lines and anywhere else that I feel needs a little bit extra coverage. Also a good opportunity to blend out any harsh shadow in the inner corners of your eyes or cover up some darkness that you may have missed in the beginning with the concealer. And to set that in place, my trusty old RCMA powder, blending away any creases that have formed before, because you do not want to set the creases. That's for sure, honey. And I'm also setting my smile lines because mama can crease there. A bitch needs some Botox ASAP. I'm just kidding, girls. Aging is a beautiful thing. But moving on, I'm taking this cream contour stick from Smashbox to contour my nose. And if you're new to the nose contouring game like I was and still pretty much am, I can't tell you how much easier it is to contour with a cream rather than a powder. Mine was looking like a hot mess when I was trying to use a powder, but with cream, I can decide how much product I want, I can manipulate it better, I can blend it easier, and it overall just looks more natural. So it's gonna be pretty much impossible for me to explain what I'm doing here. You're just gonna have to see where I'm placing my lines and then try to recreate it on your own nose shape, since everybody's is different, and contouring is pretty much just all about manipulating the light and moving shadows around, so you just gotta trial and error it and see what works best for you. But I promise cream is the way to go, especially if you don't have an even nose or have a bump or it's crooked or whatever, you get it. So now I'm moving on to powder, and by the way, I did put a little bit of baking on the sides of my nose. This is just going to further enhance the contour because it's going to give a nice contrast on the sides, and it's going to bring it out a lot more, if that makes any sense. So now I'm just powdering the rest of my face. Anywhere that I didn't put the concealer, I'm just going to dust with some of the Luscious Velvet Matte Powder, which I am loving lately. I love applying with a flat top brush. This one is by Vanity Planet, and it just gives me, again, like a velvet finish. It's so nice. I love it. Ooh, I know that probably just grossed so many people out. But moving right along, this is a new little trick I learned from the famous Amarizi. She used to do it on her Snapchat, and it really makes a world of a difference. For any hair color, really, you just match an eyeshadow. I use a really dense kind of packing brush, and I go hard in the paint. Like, I put shadow all over my hair. I kind of lift it up to get on those sparse areas that you can see your natural skin color showing through. So this is especially handy if you have a tan on and it's not matching your face color, or if you're needing a little root touch up like I am in this video. But that's why we got makeup. So now I'm finally going to add some color to this pretty non-dimensional face so far. I'm going to add some cheekbones, make my forehead a little bit more bronzy and a tad bit smaller because it does help with that. Adding that dimension, going around the perimeter, hitting the temples, just lightly sweeping this over the skin. Just make sure you blend it and so it all looks cohesive and you don't just want it in one spot. You kind of have to even it out everywhere. Do not forget the neck, especially if your foundation doesn't match perfectly. We've all been there. So now I'm going to move on and contour my nose again. What? I thought I was just praising only cream contour. No, I will go in with powder after the cream contour, but I was praising that because it was so much easier to do beforehand, and if you do mess up with your powder contour, you can just brush it away and you will still have that nice cream contour foundation, especially if you go a little bit too heavy with it like I did. Again, we've all been there. I mean, okay, not all of us, but some of us. I'm looking at you. I'm just kidding. But I'm just going to take my beauty blender that had some of that powder still on it from when I was baking and go over it to soften it so it's not too harsh and you don't walk outside and have 2 orange stripes down your nose, because that ain't cute. So now we need a little blush in our life, so I'm grabbing my In the Balm of Your Hand palette by obviously TheBalm, and I'm taking Frat Boy, one of my all-time favorite blushes, and this palette is amazing, by the way, for traveling. I think it's hands down one of the best traveling palettes because you have just such great eyeshadow colors. You have your highlight, your blush, your bronzer. It is such a great traveling palette. I just said that 5 times, but it's such a great traveling palette. And for my glorious highlight on this chilly November night, I'm using my Mary-luminizer from the same palette. Again, one of my faves, an oldie but a goodie. Actually, my first product ever from TheBalm, and I will always have a special place in my heart for TheBalm because I was taken on one of their first PR trips, and, well, not one of their first, their first, and I just love them so much. Their brand is amazing. Definitely check them out if you haven't, or at least just buy Mary-luminizer because look at that glow, girl! I mean, look at this, and I'm not meaning to flick you off, but for some reason I just always use my middle finger to highlight. I just can't use my ring finger. It just doesn't feel right to me. So I'm just going to keep highlighting. My tip of my nose is my favorite place to highlight ever, and then my cupid's bow, my cheekbones, and above the brow. Wow, that was like a legit croak. Get it together, girl. Okay, so onto lashes. These are the Style Heartbreaker by Glowed Up, my new favorite cosmetics company, because check this out. With every purchase you make, they donate a portion to an animal in need. So props to Glowed Up for doing that. That is just amazing. And I love a brand with a good cause behind it, especially for animals because y'all know they got a soft spot in my heart. But I thought these looked amazing and they really fit the look that I was going for. So jumping back to the eyes, I'm going to start blending the same red shade on the same fluffy brush that I used to put it on my lid. And I'm just going to go on the lower lash line and just blend it out. I just want it to be blown out just like the top. And then I'm going to go back to the Mary-luminizer from the Balm palette and highlight highlight the inner corner. And for the waterline, I'm taking this nude liner by Pretty Vulgar. Again, their liners are so bomb. The black one is so black. I love it. I find myself reaching for it over all of my other liners recently. And as you can see, the nude liner was just as pigmented and opaque. So now I'm moving on to mascara just to blend in my real lashes with my falsies, and I super dig that packaging. But for the lower lashes, I am going to switch over to Scuba by TheBalm, which I would say is my new favorite lower lash mascara because it's waterproof and it has a really small wand. And say hi to my cat. Her name is Kitten, like kitten with a D. Yes, it's a little weird, but that's Kitten. And here I'm just pinching my fake lashes and my real lashes together. This is going to make them look more natural so there's no gap. And then I'm just going to run some brow gel in my brows. This is my absolute favorite brow gel from Ico. It has a nice tint to it, so it really makes your brows look nice and natural and like very hairy, if you will. And since this is more of an everyday kind of look, I do just want to add some fake lower lashes. I'm just kidding. This is already kind of out there, so I'm just going to go ahead and pop on some outer lower lashes, and I think it just, I don't know, it adds some pizzazz to the look. And I'm also going to go the extra mile and add some little jewels or fake rhinestones or whatever. So I'm moving on to the lips now. I'm lining them with Urban Decay's 24/7 Glide On Lip Pencil in the shade 714. And this is just a beautiful true red, so any red lip liner will work. Of course, I just wanted to do red to do a glossy red lip to match the eyes, but of course you can do any color you want. And to fill that in, I chose the 100% pure lip caramel in Cherry Cordial. And I wanted to do more of a cherry pink on the lips rather than like a fire engine red, just because even though I used red on the lids, you can see that the eyes came out overall more of a pink shade. And last but not least, to pull this whole look together, I'm going to be adding not just a clear gloss, but a glittery gloss to the lips and to the lids. And initially I mixed them together on the back of my hand and applied them with a lip brush, but it wasn't as sparkly as I wanted, so I went straight in with more glitter and just applied it right to the lips and then smacked them together so they were even. And then, oh shoot, I forgot about this part. So this is last but least. If you've ever watched somebody do a pop art lip tutorial, this is kind of what I'm doing. I'm just adding some dimension by adding some highlights and then blending them out with a fluffy brush so they're not so harsh and cartoon-like, obviously. Now, I wouldn't recommend you add a gloss to your lids if you're trying to go out somewhere because it will crease. At least in my experience, I've not found one that doesn't crease. So this is just for artistic and creative purposes. Would not recommend going to a bar with glossy lids. But I'm just going to be adding the gloss, then the glitter on top, and the eyes are done. So I'm just going to be setting the entire face with some Urban Decay Chill Setting Spray, and that concludes this pinkish red monochromatic glossy glittery lid and lip look. Wow, okay, definitely not going to title my video that, but anyways, hope you enjoyed. It's fun to get out of your box and use color and do something creative. Do not be scared. I love you guys, and until next video, I will see you next time. Mwah.